Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. My nickname is iFacePalm, and in this episode we're going to take a closer look at a T8 Polish premium heavy tank, the 50 TP Prototyp, which features a quite interesting and hard-hitting gun alongside a seemingly strong armor profile. And during this tank review we will be looking into whether if it's worth picking up from the premium shop, how its tank statistics looks. I will compare its stats against a few other similar T8 premium heavy tanks, which will be followed up with an extensive armor profile rundown with focus on its weak spots and strengths, and afterwards I will take you guys alongside a couple of very recent battles which hopefully will give you guys a good idea of this Polish heavy tank in action. So what is the 50 TP Prototyp all about? Is it a true heavy tank? And most importantly, is it worth picking up from the premium shop? Right from the start we directly notice its gigantic 440 alpha damage gun, which definitely is capable of making its impact on the battlefield. But at least for me, how good is it in the heavy tank role? Because there are loads of different types of heavies in World of Tanks. Heavies that has put all their focus on armoring their turret and disregarded completely the hull of the tank. Heavies that sacrifice the very lower plate armament alongside its side armor for that increase in speed and mobility, and heavies that sacrifices the alpha damage for that extra boost in DPM. And yes, there's a lot of various different heavy tanks in the game. And of course on top of that we got the super heavies that of course take a very unique role for that enormous sacrifice of speed, which in some ways should nearly be a category of itself. But at least for me, a heavy tank should be able to brawl and have the speed and firepower to do so, alongside causing a constant challenge for the enemy to penetrate your frontal armor, because that exact point leaves us with the question about the 50 TP Prototyp. What kind of heavy tank is it? And is it any good? Well, let's take a deeper look by doing a quick stats rundown with my current crew and tank setup. For the crew itself, nothing out of the ordinary, because started out with brothers and arms, 6 ends, and then the focus has gone towards situational awareness. Do notice that I have retrained one of my skills towards the sound detection. For the gunner, I have selected snapshots, repairs, and currently going for concealment. And for the driver, off-road driving, smooth ride, and clutch braking. You can of course change any of these skills with the repair skill. And last, for the loader, that usually doesn't have that many skills to choose from, I've gone for concealment, repairs, and currently training the intuition skill. And for the equipment, I've selected a turbocharger, vertical stabilizer, and binoculars. And you might be thinking, what is happening? Well, I will go into more details why I've selected these type of equipments, because they might look very different to what the general public is used to. But keep in mind guys, this 50 TP Prototyp is outfitted for my preferred playstyle. And for the ammunition, I've gone for 16 AP shells that are capable of delivering a fantastic alpha damage of 440 for a T8 heavy tank. But do notice the average penetration of only 218. It's not very impressive, but it is doable. And last, we have the shell velocity of 1007, which places this around the middle. And just quickly notice, check the shell cost of only 880 for a 440 alpha damage shell, which means as long as you're landing your shots, you will definitely be able to earn some nice credits in this tank. For the premium shells, this tank comes with 16 APCR shells, which each receives a very microscopic buff in its average penetration, which is now 245. And this figure I'll come back to during this review, because in my opinion this figure should have been higher, because especially when you're facing tier 9 or even tier 10 heavy tanks. But nevertheless, the APCR shells receives a beautiful shell velocity boost and has 1259 meters per second. Definitely decent at the longer ranges. And of course, 3 high explosive shells, which each are capable of delivering 560 damage, average penetration of 68, and it retains the same shell velocity as its standard AP rounds. And for the consumables, nothing out of the ordinary. Small repair kit, small first aid kit, and I have gone with some bread with Smolik. So we have a rate of fire of 4.71, which translates to a 440 alpha damage every 12.75 seconds, which is not bad at all. And keep in mind guys, I'm not running with a gun rammer, which is capable of removing that extra 10%. Furthermore, it has an okay gun traverse speed of 31 for a heavy tank. But check this guys, gun depression minus 10 degrees. That sounds good for a heavy tank. But of course we're going to look at this inside the armor profile, whether those 10 degrees of gun depression, if they are all around or if it's only featured in certain angles. Next, we had the aiming time of 2.69 seconds alongside a gun dispersion of 0.36, which is quite impressive for a heavy tank that is capable of delivering 440 alpha damage. If you utilize this tank at long range, then it definitely matters. And you might be wondering, why would I use this tank in a long range? Well, the thing is that if I was 100% certain I would only encounter T8, yes, then I would use it as a brawl tank. But for me at least, it's very important that I can use my heavies from long range whenever I'm unlucky enough, which happens quite a lot, that I'm encountering tier 10 heavy tanks. Because taking an IS-7 one-on-one is not really one of my most enjoyable moments. And this is also why my tank setup looks kind of strange, because due to that gun dispersion, yes, it's not amazing, but it's not bad. 0.36, definitely decent. And this also explains why I have those binoculars fitted, which you will see very soon. But let's continue. The average damage per minute was 2071, which is quite average for this tier, and we have an HP pool of 1500, which again is quite average and doesn't really stand out. For the armor, 179.80, which starts to look quite promising, I must say, because if you look at these angles here, they look very decent. And not only that, we have a turret armor of 210, 150, 100, which again looks quite interesting. Those cupolas don't look that gigantic, but of course we're going to take a look at this very soon. And next important statistics here is of course the horsepower per ton of 15.3, and yes, I have mounted that turbocharger to get that extra boost. And usually you would see this value a bit at 35 top speed, but now receives that extra 4km boost. And this also means that with that fitting that turbocharger, that I can more easier change flanks when I need to, especially when I'm one of the lower tier and want to reposition or to support one of our flanks. Yes, of course, if you are happy already with the mobility of the tank, then yes, I would highly recommend to change the turbocharger and switch it with either gun rammer or improved ventilation. And check this guys, traverse speed 46.82, which is quite decent for a heavy tank in this caliber. And for the few last figures here guys, we had the camo values 11.88 and 6.94, which doesn't really stand out. And check this guys, 523 meters of view range. Yes, of course we are receiving that gigantic buff in the binoculars. And this part here is one of its very strong sides, because this tank has a base view range of 380. And keep in mind that for example a Defender has base view range of 350. So that specializer and locks down the Defender for a specific role, where the Polish 50 TP Prototyp is capable when needed to take upon a medium tank role. But of course, if you are using this tank as a pure brawler, then of course I would switch the binoculars and change them with either the decoded optics, improved ventilation, or if you already have an improved ventilation mounted, then I would take the improved rotation mechanism. Okay guys, let's continue and see how it compares against some of its closest competitors. Okay guys, so here we have the tank comparison, where we're going to compare the premium 50 TP Prototyp against the Object 252U/Defender and the Tech Tree 53 TP and IS-3, and last the Soviet IS-5 reward tank. Let's start with the DPM. And here the base of 1939 really puts it around the middle. The slightly interesting part here is the 53 TP that actually takes the top spot, not by much in comparison to the 50 TP, but against some of the other ones it starts to look quite interesting. For the penetration, the 50 TP Prototyp came with a 218mm. The difference between the best and the worst is only 7mm, so in general they're really all the same. And when we take a look at the shell velocity of 1007, yeah, again decent and also around the middle. Besides of course the amazing shell velocity of the IS-5 with 1400. And this is of course due to that the IS-5 uses APCR shells as standard, where of course the rest of the bunch uses AP shells. But what about if we change to the premium rounds? Let's take a look. And yes, we can directly see that the 245mm is not only shared with the 53 TP Tech Tree variant, but it is very low, because at this level this gun in my opinion should have at least 265mm, similar to the Object 252U, because at least for me I'm not really that super motivated to pay that extra credit, whereas sometimes in the Soviet tanks I might tend to switch to the premium rounds. You can also see here that for the shell velocity, this is also around the middle. The IS-5 of course is a bit unique in this comparison due to the heat shells, and we can definitely see that on the very poor shell velocity of only 820. But then of course if you're fighting with this tank right close up and fighting other heavies, then it doesn't really matter that much. And for the damage of course 440, which is amazing for this tier. Placed it together with the Object 252U in the very top. The 53 TP features 420 alpha damage, and of course the Soviet counterpart features the standard 390 alpha damage heavy tank gun. The rate of fire, the reload time of course not very different due to the DPM is so similar. So let's jump directly down to the gun handling. And here we got the 50 TP among some of the best together with the 53 TP. And also when we look at the gun dispersion, 0.38 is again some of the very best. And here you can also directly see the big difference between the 50 TP and the Object of 0.04. For close encounters it doesn't really matter that much, but when you're utilizing the 50 TP from long range, then it's surprisingly precise as long as you just give the gun enough time to fully aim. When we look at the hidden gun handling statistics, 0.23, yeah, that seems unfortunately quite standard. This is definitely not impressive. This we directly see here, because if there's one tank that is not really famous for its gun handling, then we have the Object, and these figures are the exact same, both when moving, traversing your tank and turret. The interesting part here from this comparison is that definitely the Tech Tree 53 TP seems to be way more nimble in comparison to the other brothers, because for the cost of only 20 alpha damage, but with the best aiming time, dispersion and the hidden gun handling statistics hit right here, then it seems kind of too good to be true, right? In the armor profile rundown we will very soon see why the 53 TP has this better gun handling in comparison to the 50 TP Prototyp. And last for the gun handling we have of course the vital gun depression, where the 50 TP Prototyp Prototyp has 10 degrees. It is really impressive, especially here, guys. We can directly see this is definitely best in class, and having 10 degrees, that just seems too good to be true. And for the mobility, we have the forward speed of 35. It's not really that impressive for a heavy tank, and furthermore, a quite sluggish reverse speed. And this is also why I really, at least for me, I really want to have a turbocharger. Not really because of that forward speed, but especially because of the reverse speed, because when I'm peaking and deliver that shot, then I want to get away as fast as possible, and that extra 2 km/h reverse speed, that really matters. For the power to weight ratio, 14.33, again places it around the middle. But what is the power to weight ratio when you have terrain resistances? How do they look? And check this, guys, this is kind of fishy if you ask me, because 50 TP Prototyp and Object 252U, yeah, it seems like a beautiful copy paste here by Wargaming. So if we are not comparing these two tanks, Wargaming definitely have. But the thing is that when we take a look at the turret traverse and the tank traverse, then check this here, guys, 29 degrees versus 25. And not only that, check that tank traverse speed, guys, 39.63. This is very impressive figure. And not only that, guys, keep in mind that when you add a turbocharger, your tank traverse figure in game does not change, but your tank traverse speed in reality does, because the better top speed you have, the faster your tank actually will traverse, which I showcased very quickly in the Object 274A tank review. And here the mobility seems surprisingly good for this tank. For the armor, turret armor 210, 150 and 100. We will go of course into more details very soon in the armor profile rundown, but definitely something to notice is quite interesting hull armor of 170 base value, which seems kind of superior to any of these tanks. But is it really? The important figure here to notice the HP pool of 1500, which places it firmly in the middle. And for the very last figures, we had the camera values 6.95 and 3.48. And you can directly see here nothing really out of the ordinary. But what is out of the ordinary, guys, is of course the view range, which I mentioned very quickly in the garage. 380 base, because that opens a lot of opportunities, guys. You can directly see here the Defender with 350, which is definitely no bueno. The IS-3 again has 350. The 53 TP, yes, it is vastly better with 370. But as you can see here, guys, there's a class difference here. This is also why the 50 TP Prototyp can take upon other roles rather than a pure heavy tank role. And of course I figure that sometimes makes me just wonder why, because sometimes these nerfs, in my humble opinion, doesn't really make that much sense. But anyway, guys, let's take a look at that armor profile rundown and see what kind of heavy tank class can we expect from the 50 TP Prototyp, especially when we compare against some of the other heavies. Okay, guys, so here we have the armor profile of the Polish 50 TP Prototyp, and for this rundown we're going to use this premium 245mm of penetrating shells. And let's take a look how it looks in the live view, and there we go. It looks quite interesting right off the bat. And you definitely can see here there's space here for a beautiful Superman logo, and if we have the turret pointing directly at us, you might be thinking this is completely no bueno because it has those gigantic weak spots. But how big are they? Because if we start off with the worst part, the lower plate, of around 185 to 190mm of effective armor, which yes, at the higher tier definitely not enough. But check this here, guys, at the upper plate, 390mm, 400, this looks great. But then again, like 230, 240, 250, it's really not bad at all, because even with this premium round of 245mm, it only gives us around 50% chance. And this is of course the same story here on the left and the right side. And when we take a look at the turret, then check these armor values, guys. That definitely is capable to make loads of shells simply bounce off, and that's not even in the angle part, which is just slightly above here, and you can achieve some completely nuts figures. I definitely do notice, yes, there is this cupola, but that is seriously microscopic. And the strange part is that, take a look here, guys, there's one cupola, right? But then wasn't there in the garage two cupolas? We switch to the visual view, then yes, this really seems like a cupola, but it really isn't. And we take here a look at the live view, you can see of course here the armor here is amazing, but this has this strange viewport box here that definitely is capable of being penetrated. And of course the question is, how good is it all down? Because we noticed in the statistics it said 10 degrees, but is it really? Well, let's take a look. And we can see here that this only reaches 8 degrees of gun depression from the front. If you ask, it's kind of misleading if you're paying real life money for a tank that displays it has 10 degrees of gun depression and you're only getting 8 degrees from the usual place where it matters the most. But yeah, anyhow, check what happens with the armor profile now, guys. So of course these areas here look very decent. The weak spot areas are now at around 250mm, the same on the side, on the left and the right side. And check this Superman spot here of 300mm. And this really showcases that if you use this tank and you keep it moving, driving forward, backwards and so forth, it can get very tricky for the enemy to hit that exact point, and very often they will hit one of these other areas. This is a very important part for me. I want to reliably make it hard for my opponent to penetrate my tank. I'm not expecting my heavy tank to be bounced every single shot. I want to be able to bounce multiple shots reliably every combat. And just quickly here, guys, you can see here the 8 degrees of gun depression we have here. And for us to be able to achieve those 10 degrees of gun depression, then check this here, guys. And it's first here we have the 10 degrees of gun depression depression, and it continues the whole way to the rear. So you can see it's not really 10 degrees of gun depression. And to just make the matters a bit more confusing, you can check here, guys, when you look at the rear part, what happens to the gun, and it starts to go upwards, yeah, to 4 degrees of gun depression from the rear. This area is quite big, so definitely something to notice. Yes, those 10 degrees of gun depression, when utilized, that is definitely capable of giving you that beautiful advantage. But how does it side scrape? Well, let's take a look. Switching back to the live view, there we go. We can of course see here, as the turret is pointed towards us, the armor here is beautiful, but what is interesting here is of pike nose armor of course becomes suddenly extremely weak on the side, where even tier 6 tanks will be able to penetrate you quite reliably if you're facing them with this angle. The visual view, we can see it's right here. So when you encounter one of these tanks, they have this position towards you, and just shoot right here. This part here is probably a bit easier to hit. The lower plate can become really hard to penetrate. Values of around 270, 290 millimeter, 260 at best. And here we can directly see how the armor profile changes. One place that seems to retain its greenness is definitely this spot. Before we take a look at the side profile, how does it compare against some of the other heavy tanks we have? Well, so here we had the 50 TP Prototyp. We're using the exact same shell types against the other tanks. So if we compare against the 53 TP, which seem to have way better gun handling figures in comparison to the Prototyp, then how does it compare? And you can see here why it has that extra gun handling figures. But the turret armor seems kind of good. Besides, the cupolas definitely has grown a bit. The armor lower plate definitely is no bueno. And when we take a look at the IS3, then you can directly see here that yes, the turret armor looks kind of epic, but again, the hull armor doesn't really seem that supreme. Yes, it's definitely above the average figures, but doesn't stand out. And when we take a look at the IS5, it seems to be better, but again, not to the extreme level. The most important part here, of course, will be to compare it against the Object 252U, and let's take a look how that looks. And yes, this is a really a tank class for itself, especially when used for more competitive gameplay. And we can directly see here the armor profile, but doesn't really have that gigantic weak spots. Yes, those two cupolas are there, but of course, in the heat of the battle, they can be challenging. And even at its lowest places, it still has 230, 220 millimeter. So definitely, if you want some reliable armor, you can really not go wrong with the Defender. Because if you compare the Object 252U armor against the 50 TP Prototyp, yes, there's definitely some differences between these two tanks. But we also know, even the Object 252U have an overall stronger armor profile. The 50 TP Prototyp, for that sacrifice, has that extra base view range, it has that better mobility, and most importantly, it has that gun precision when fully aimed. So at least for me, it seems like the Defender is fully specialized towards one role, where the 50 TP Prototyp is a way more flexible heavy tank. Well, as flexible as they get. And let's take a look at the side profile here. We can barely see the turret here in this super white. But nevertheless, guys, we have some amazing turret figures that range between 270 to above those 300 millimeter. This is of course due to this beautiful angle here. Besides that, the values ranges between 160, 200, 150, 130, 130, 180, 150, 200, and 170. So loads of various different figures here. You can directly see here on the armor profile how does it actually look. You can see this angle in so many ways. This part here I like because that means that the enemy should not be 100% reliable in penetrating your tank. 90 millimeter, nothing out of the ordinary. And here where we cannot really see it, let's change this to the visual view. Yeah, we have the armor plates here. We have around 100 millimeter, but due to this extra spaced armor with these extra plates, there are some places that actually are capable of values of around 152 to 121. And this gets even better because check this here. When we start to move towards more of the middle part of the hull armor, then these values seems to kind of go extreme with values of 191 millimeter. And notice of course that the shells actually ends up being absorbed. So in general, guys, if you are encountering a 50 TP Prototyp, you really want to place those shots above these small hinges here. And from the rear, nothing really out of the ordinary. Values of around 120 millimeter, with of course more at the edges, 75 millimeter, 94 millimeter, and a microscopic spot here with some insane values. And this spot here, if we can just take a look at the visual view here, guys, we can see here there's this machine gun port right here. Okay, guys, let's take a look at two very recent battles I just had. The Polish 50 TP Prototyp premium tank. Okay, guys, so here we are on Tundra. I'm playing together with Grey Fox and 12 PAs. And I'm in my 50 TP Prototyp. And yes, right off the bat, of course, we are same tier. The obvious spot for the heavy tank in this class would of course be the one line. But I'm like thinking, I really don't like the one line personally. If I was like playing with a super heavy, yes, definitely one line. But I don't really feel that besides the super heavies, or besides if you have some completely godlike penetration and turret armor, it's really not my cup of tea. And the penetration value of 245 at best, at the very best, premium rounds against some of the other heavies, yeah, it's not Doesn't really sound that promising. So let's see if we can get up here. We know we have a good gun depression. That's definitely a part we really need at this particular spot here. Ah! Okay, my first shot of the day. Not that very good. Okay, let's see if we can do slightly better. I was like slightly very worried there. Okay, we took a shot that wasn't very good angle, but from my side, the Object 274 can definitely be a challenge if it goes hull down. That turret is completely nuts. Trying to rely a bit of my armor. I knew I would keep me one shot in. Okay, definitely getting a gigantic beating here. 403 HP left for 917 damage. That's not really looking promising. Might have to go to a very quick other game very soon. Okay, we got another one. Beautiful. Armor seems to work better. So you can guys see 3 shots. We have 1364 damage. That's quite nice if you ask me. It's like worried that some of the guys will come over because we have 400 HP. Always get triggered when some of them gets a bit bloodthirsty. They just will see if they can YOLO me quickly and easy for that finish. And of course that Scorpion, which was located last time down in J9, it always worries me, the guys that are camping down there. There's not much space for moving around. Let's see, there we go. They go impatient. Impatience is good. As long as it's not our impatience. Nice, nice, nice. Another 501 damage. That was a beautiful roll there. That guy definitely seems kind of angry at us. Still be there. Patience, patience. And do notice, guys, with this current gameplay style, that 10% of, if let's say I had the gun rammer fitted, it wouldn't really give me that gigantic advantage. If I was playing on the one line, then yes, sometimes of course it will. If I go very, very aggressive, full YOLO mode. But I tend not to do that in this tank. Beautiful. Nice snapshot there. And we are above 2100 damage already. Of course we took that gigantic beating in the beginning, which was, yeah, it could definitely have been avoided and should definitely be avoided next time I get the opportunity. Can we? Oh, that was lucky one. That was like, oh, okay, definitely lucky. That was spot on. Not only it was a lucky shot, but it also caught fire. Okay, look too good to be true. Another hard hitting shot into the T-44 there. That guy is definitely going to think twice now. Okay, 122, 900 HP left, and that the guy definitely seems. Because the 122 TM, when you use the premium rounds, you have like what, 297 if I remember correct. For the premium rounds, that's just not so. Could have actually been 299mm, yes. So yes, as this armor is good, but against 299mm shells, then I would probably vote for the 122 TM. Nice, nice, nice. $463 health left, so that definitely needs to be high roll if we are able to take him out in one shot. That guy has 400 alpha damage, so that's a bit tricky, this one. Okay, see if we can support. Not bad. 3680 damage, despite my mess up in the very beginning. Not bad. Let's take another game. Okay guys, so here we are at Pearl River, and luckily we are in the same tier. And do notice where the cap circle is. We have that at J2, because normally, yes, the heavy tanks would of course go towards the B8, C8 spot and fight it out there. But of course, the thing is that because I don't like taking this tank directly towards the heavy tanks, I don't mind encountering them, but I don't really enjoy taking this particular tank directly towards the heavy corner, unless of course I'm like a super top tier, or I know that I can reliably penetrate the enemy tanks. So that's of course the one thing. The second thing is that you very often see that when you have the cap circle down there, that a lot of heavies goes and fight it out in the usual heavy corner, and they completely forget the spot. And suddenly when they realize it, it's usually too late. Because it doesn't really matter that much if we lose the heavy tank line, the usual one. But this particular map here, let's see if we can... Oh, that... Definitely need some time to properly aim. I just knew it. I just knew it. I just know it, like, no, that shot is no bueno, no bueno. What do you do? Click the button. Okay, let's... Can we put in a shell on him? Aim, come on, go, come on. Yeah. This spot here, I really wanted to take the upper ground. You can see here my my comrade, the Grey Fox. He's exactly the spot I really wanted to be in. And was this tank slightly faster, I would have taken that spot. Okay, that was a bit lucky. 486 even. Nice. Capping out, but we've got 43 seconds left. Definitely putting a lot of pressure towards this area here. You can also see here for this gameplay style I'm using, the gunner would not really have made big difference, but well, maybe it's going to do it now. But the thing is, if that VK is going to push in, we can use that guy as our meat shield, and then we can come in and support. Let's see. Looks good. Okay, that guy definitely didn't notice us. Nice. Okay, that was a beautiful shot by the VK. Okay, we're gonna challenge these guys here. Also a bit lucky that guy didn't even penetrate us. I guess that's the exact spot I was talking about in the armor profile. If you just hit, there's so many areas in this tank where this shot will just... Okay, that... Let's not talk about that shot. But there's so many areas on this tank where this shell just seems to bounce. That's the part I really like about this, that the enemy cannot really reliably pen you. As long as you of course do your very best to make it as hard for them to do so. Can we put in is that going to peek out or not? Probably not. Good part is now that at least we are putting the pressure on now. So we are capping the spot. Still 1.5 minutes. Oh, beautiful. The alpha damage of this gun is stunning, guys. You know, like on the Russian tanks, usually you got the 390 alpha damage gun, and you might see, think sometimes, the difference between 390 and 440 is not a lot, but it really feels like it is, and you can definitely see here when we hit the tanks here that it removes such a gigantic chunk of their health. Ooh, I don't know. Okay, the RNG is definitely with us. I think we have like 3 lucky shots so far that was like going to hit or even pen in a good day, but so far so good. Of course, the shot of course I count on hitting, doesn't. Eight, 10. Should be okay this game so far. Oh, we have this guy here. Can we put in a shell? Come on. Ah, beautiful. There we go, bouncer shot from the LT432. You can see this IS-6 that is going... Oh, this guy's full health. So of course going to apply pressure here. I have my comrade in the VK100. Can support me, we should be able to take out this guy here. Nice, nice, nice. Youch. Of course this guy has beautiful view from my lower plate. 514 damage. That's definitely high roll. Yeah, it cost me some health here from the IS-6. Nevertheless guys, 1110, we have 4000 damage. What's the... He has got the the timer, sorry. The timer down to 1 minute and 10 seconds. Just should be able to chill out here. I really feel like rushing in towards the SU-130. That gun definitely will be able to take the majority of my health away in a single shot. Okay, there's enough Waffenträger, also full health over there. Ah, pop, 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 pop. Definitely enemies applying prejudice. There's no way we can cap this out before they will arrive. Of course, the unknown question, of course, is when we're capping here, is the LT-432 coming to attack us from the cave? And yeah, and the Waffenträgers from the other round, most likely, Yeah, the LT-432 is going to use... I'm just going to go for the Scorpion, but still should die. It's going to attack us from this spot here. The Scorpion should be able to take out the LT-432, but of course now he drives out in the open side. Don't think that was the best thing, but let's see. 20 seconds. We definitely have to put pressure now. Where's it coming from? Feels like I feel like a fish in a pond. Fish next to a pond, very close. There we go. Okay, bugger. Our comrade here, he got decapped. Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Got me worried there for a second. Okay. Okay, this looks very bad. Luckily this armor here is not reliably penetratable. Thank you. As we've already been back in the garage. Okay, I must say from this current situation the enemy definitely have the upper hand. Got the light tank. Even we're in the cap zone. Still one tank, we don't know where it is. Checking what's the yards here up there. Oh shice. Go on. Ah yeah. Okay, another shot from the LT-432. Now definitely we're one shot now. Waiting for my repair to fix so we can get that. Get fixed our ammo rack, because right now the reload speed is definitely horrible. Okay, just check the damage, 4969. Definitely decent. Ah. I don't like my odds, especially if we're capping here for 2.5 minutes. Enemy knows exactly where we are, and we have 14 HP left. Our comrade in Scorpion, what can he do? Need to keep mobile there. expecting the light tank just to pop out from any spot. Take that shot. If I stand still, I don't want to give him that extra second just to that perfect aim. Nice. That was important. Is that guy's a one shot? Ah, epic. That was good job there by the Scorpion. So we got the Waffenträger out, and now suddenly this looks very promising. What a game. First it looks like we're going to win. No. Yeah, what a game. He got 2 HP left, I have 14 HP left. Should even repair my Amarok. What if he tracks me? Save it for now. So, which spot is he coming from? If I was him, I would come from the, from this spot down here. It's not fast enough in that one to drive the whole way around and attack me from my left side, and from H2. And I don't think he will take me head on. Where I just were looking. Who knows, he must come from this area. $20 seconds. Did he give up or 10? Oh yeah, come on, just give up, don't look. 5, 4. Really? Wow. What a game. Definitely, that was some surprises. 5,400 damage, not bad at all. So, the 50 TP Prototyp, what do I think of it, and most importantly, is it worth picking up from the premium shop? Well, this Polish tank is indeed an interesting heavy tank, and not surprisingly, the direct comparison of this tank is the Defender due to its hard-hitting 440 alpha damage gun, because both tanks offers overall solid armor, with very few weak spots, decent mobility for a heavy alongside that hard-hitting gun. But of course, as they both seem very similar, they still have their specialities, because for example, for competitive gameplay, I love to use the Soviet Object 252U because the armor profile is more or less foolproof. The Polish 50 TP Prototyp, even it's close, it's just not made for this, because for competitive gameplay you really want to set full focus towards a specific gameplay style, and the Object 252U is just overall better in the role of a meat shield. But the thing is that where I personally enjoy bringing the Object 252U for skirmish battles, then I do not enjoy playing with it, because the general problem for any tier 8 heavy tank is that when you encounter higher tiers, then your armor is more or less rendered obsolete, and as you start to question your selection of your tank choice, the 50 TP Prototyp, at least for me, is way more enjoyable in random games, because it has both a much more precise gun, but it also boasts a base view range of 380 in comparison to that at 350 of its Soviet counterpart, and this at the cost of some armor plates. These may be small changes for some, are quite significant for me, because this opens up for this tank to not always take the heavy tank role, because sometimes you simply can't. Playing any tier 8 heavy and driving your tank to the heavy tank meeting spot can indeed feel demoralizing, especially if you very well know that a couple of tier 10 heavies are just waiting for you around the corner. And also quick to mention that ironically the 50 TP Prototyp was actually the tank that got me initially wondering about the World of Tanks gun precision mechanics back in the days, because it just seemed to be able to hit those long range shots extremely precising as long as those were fully aimed. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, then of course you guys are super welcome to check out my gun dispersion video where I'm exactly testing out how big a difference does gun dispersion make. But anyhow, because the thing is that as a sniping vehicle, this tank seems surprisingly well. So yeah, overall it just seems like a good package. So how many facepalms would I give this Polish T8 premium heavy tank? Well, it receives 3 facepalms. You might be wondering, hey, what is happening? Why only 3? Well, 3 is not bad at all. The thing is that I'm rating it on the average battlefield experience in this tank, because even it seems to be much better than the Object 252U at repositioning and shooting from afar, then it still suffers from those extremely low penetrating shots. In a pure T8 matchup, then this Polish heavy is definitely good and definitely one of the very best in my opinion. And it seems to be an interesting tank for the type of player who just want a heavy tank that can, when needed, spearhead the heavy tank line and have the armor and firepower to more or less take care of itself. The thing is that if this tank had its premium rounds buffed to around, let's say 260 or even 270, then this would have a gigantic impact on its use when facing that bad matchmaker. And this is in the end the biggest reason for why it does not receive my rating of 4 facepalms versus 3. Because personally, I'm not a heavy tank player, and there are very few of them that I truly do enjoy. But for some reason, this tank seems more often than not to surprise me positively, both in regards of its gun, nice gun depression, overall sturdy armor, and that beautiful alpha damage of 440, which often makes your opponent sink twice after you removed a larger chunk of their HP. In short, what I like about this tank is that you can play it way more effectively from long range when needed, and this flexibility when facing that bad matchmaker makes this tank, at least for me, enjoyable. Okay guys, let's finish up. I hope that this tank review was helpful towards your decision on whether you should pick up the 50 TP Prototyp premium tank next time you have the chance. And thanks a lot for watching guys. This was my tank review number 40. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of the Polish 50 TP Prototyp in the comments below. Did you pick one up, and what is your opinion of this tank? And as always, if you'd like to see more crazy content from my side, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. It's a big thumbs up for me and I appreciate it a lot. Cheers guys, take care and see you next time.